Earlier, Iran state television reported explosions in the capital Tehran and the nearby city of Karaj. Blasts have also been reported in the Syrian capital Damascus.
However, in Iran, Iranians are saying that their air defense systems across the country are on the highest alert, and they're saying that it's a multi-layer air defense system. So we are talking about the protection particularly being enhanced across and around these strategic facilities, the oil and gas reserves, the strategic depots that are reserved for preserved for the war times, and the nuclear facilities. So they have been protected by Russian S-300 and S-400s, then Khordad third systems, and also they are talking about the Iranian-made Bavar 373 air defense system, which are equivalent to the Russian-made S-300s. And on the top of that, Iranians are saying that several dozens and dozens of the aircrafts are now scanning the Iranian airspace, and now the Iranian army is at the highest level of the readiness. If the scale of the Israeli attacks is quite big and huge, then Iranians are saying that they are going to respond to these with the same magnitude.
The Israeli military is indeed confirming that they are carrying out what they describe as precise strikes on military targets inside of Iran, as we are getting these reports of explosions being heard in the Iranian capital of Tehran, and also seeing some quite dramatic images of plumes of smoke over the Iranian capital. Now, we don't know the exact nature of these targets or how many military bases the Israeli military has been striking inside of Iran tonight, but Israeli officials are taking pains to emphasize that these are only military targets, that they are not striking at any energy targets, nuclear or oil facilities, which we know had been considered by the Israeli government earlier in this process. I do expect that we will get a fuller accounting from the Israeli military of the targets that they struck and the number of aircraft potentially that appear to have been involved in this strike. What I can tell you from speaking with Israeli officials is that this decision to carry out these strikes on military targets was the process of weeks of deliberations within the Israeli Security Cabinet, as well as weeks of consultations between Israeli and U.S. officials. One Israeli official describing this to me tonight as a, quote, very diligent decision-making process. Another Israeli official telling me that they went after targets that, quote, posed a threat or could pose a threat to the state of Israel. Admiral Daniel Hagari, the Israeli military spokesman, in a video statement tonight saying that Israel has the right to defend itself and that it is now prepared for all offensive and defensive scenarios.
The money issue, the fact that sanctions were working in the Trump era, and the fact that the Harris-Biden administration turned a blind eye and allowed them to sell their oil on world markets, they assisted Iran in getting rich again. And now we know what they did with the money. They're supporting Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, Hamas, the Houthi rebels, and they're buying ballistic missiles that they themselves are firing into Israel. Not a good idea, in my view. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Sean, that's exactly right. October 7th of last year would never have happened if Iran hadn't have funded it, if they hadn't have provided the hardware for it, the weaponry for it. Their terrorist proxies are the ones who carried out that attack on October 7th. Their terrorist proxies are the ones who have been expanding this war against Israel. That's what it is. It's a war against Israel. We need to stand unequivocally with our ally Israel, and it's time that we quit allowing Iran to run wild all over the region. That's what Biden and Harris have done. I mean, we've got to put Iran back in its box. It is a terrorist regime. And right now, Israel is, again, it's doing the world's work here. It's doing us a huge favor. It's helping our national security. This really shows why Israel is arguably our most important ally out there. They are standing up to Iran, and they are helping to reverse what Biden and Harris have done over the last few years. It's a dangerous world. It's a dangerous region.
And, for years, these two countries have been fighting through proxies. Now that they are in direct conflict, does that signify a shift?
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, that this is the first time that, Israel has conducted a military operation at this scale on Iranian soil. And so this is a first for the Iranians. Military powers that are engaged in these kind of maneuvers are gaming things out, as they're planning. So when Iran struck on October 1st in much more intense way than they did back on April 13th, they obviously had to have gamed out an Israeli response and prepared for it. But preparing for it is one thing, and then actually absorbing a real counterstrike is another. So again, we need to see when there's daylight and we have satellite imagery showing what was hit and how bad, then that will tell us what is the future direction of this direct confrontation.
Yeah, let's just remember, Sean, that we are here largely because of the deal that the Obama administration, with the full backing of Joe Biden, made years ago with Iran, where they let Iran off the leash. They sent them billions of dollars. They lifted the sanctions. They allowed Iran to start funding all of these terrorist proxies, radical Islamic terrorist proxies, all over the region and the world. And we're still living with the consequences of that. And let's not forget, Biden and Harris wanted to go back to that. They pushed to get back to that same regime where we lift all the sanctions, where we allow Iran all of this money. And what happened? October 7th happened. And now here we are. Israel is defending itself. They are pushing back on this terrorist regime in Tehran, which they have every right to do. And frankly, they're making the world safer by doing it. And Kamala Harris, she wants to know who's responsible for the destabilization of that region and for the endangerment of Israel. Take a look in the mirror, because it's their policies that have gotten us here.
But the problem is that things have escalated to a point where you just can't expect both sides to knock it off because of the logic of the conflict. It becomes an imperative almost for one side to strike at the other once they're hit. And that's the sort of the danger of the escalatory cycle, or being up on that escalatory ladder where you can't come down. And I think that's what the United States and its regional allies are trying to contain. I'm pretty sure, the Russians are involved in this as well. And there has to be some Chinese effort or role to play here. So this isn't just the United States. This is a multinational effort.
Okay, we're going to pause the conversation there, and we will come back to you for your expertise. We certainly appreciate you being here for the breaking news. That is Kamran Bokhari, an expert in the Mideast. We also have a report from the White House now. The White House saying that Vice President Harris has been briefed on Israel conducting targeted strikes against military targets in Iran. She is closely following developments and will continue to be updated. Of course, she is in Texas this evening for a rally. We are also seeing that both ABC News and NBC News are reporting that Israel is not striking Iranian nuclear facilities or oil fields.